She's a star. Just Britney Spears themed Peloton ride yet, because you know who would do it.
Has there really not been?
No, not that I know of. I maybe have to go back and check. So
that's like legitimately surprising to me.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but no, I bet you there is. I bet Cody did it like 2 years ago when I didn't have a Peloton.
Somebody add us on Twitter if you know that there was a Britney Spears ride.
I took a Britney Spears warm up. Oh, there's got to be a Britney Spears ride. I'm sure there is, because you know what happens when Cody plays Britney?
I know it's like a thing.
We fuck shit up.
In love with movies, in love, in love,
Dani and Nic.
in love with movies. Da-da-da.
There you go. All right, and with that, welcome movie lovers. This is the In Love with Movies podcast.
I'm Nick.
We doing that again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm Dani.
It's been a while, so we have to bring back the bits because we're not funny.
Yeah, I mean, basically, we're not humorous at all.
And we don't have a guest today, so I'm like,
Yeah,
and you're listening to In Love with Movies. It's a podcast where we talk about love in movies, right?
yeah, exactly. So if you like love and you love movies, you probably wouldn't mind this podcast.
Maybe.
What is it we normally do here on this podcast, Dani?
We just said that we talk about love in movies.
What about love specifically? Maybe a little bit more.
Typically, Nick picks a topic about love because I have no creativity when it comes to love. I just need to be loved. Don't know how to love back. And then we also talk about movies. Again, Nick, he picks a lot of the movies, but I pick some of the movies too.
That's not very fair. I don't pick a lot of the movies.
You're
There's
right.
we did start this because I wanted to make you watch more movies, but I had to concede that we would watch as many of your movies as we would mine. So
that's right.
No, but in general, we do try to talk about love topics, what it is to be in love, what are relationships, and what do we think of it? We're a young married couple, and we're just giving our opinions here. And then we usually pick a movie that is sort of more about someone's past and why that movie is important to them, and maybe a little bit of how it made them the person that they are today. But today, we are not doing that. We are not doing some movie that we are specifically in love with or have a history with. What are we doing instead, Dani?
And we're going to talk about the new Marvel release, Black Widow. Da-na-na-na. That's the actual theme song to
That's
it.
the actual. Can you give us the whole theme?
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah. It's a lady. Yeah.
All right, yes, and with that glorious, fantastic.
Amazing.
No. So with that, we're going to talk about Black Widow because Black Widow is a movie that was released this month, July 2021. We are recording this, and we did get the opportunity to go see this movie in theaters. And because Black Widow is a prequel, we thought we'd talk about some of our pasts as well, the prequels, if you will say, to the relationship that has created this podcast. And so we're talking about past loves. Isn't that right, Dani?
Yep, apparently.
Wow. Absolutely the best sounding board, folks.
Can I say it's funny because Nick's got like all his notes and stuff. You know, typically I take notes on the movie because especially if it's a movie I haven't seen. But I literally got nothing right now. So this is all going to be off the top of my head. So you went into this saying, you're like, I don't want to edit this one this much. So sorry that this is what you're getting.
All right, folks. So if you're new listeners, welcome. We really appreciate you joining us. We hope you go back and listen to some of more typical episodes, perhaps with some of our guests, since Dani apparently
perhaps
prefers those. But anyhow, so we're going to go ahead, and the first half of our podcast is always us talking about our love topics. We're going to launch right into things. And you're right, since Dani has no notes, we're going to just go ahead and put the spotlight on her right off the bat, and we're going to start with a question.
Okay. Are you asking me a question, or do I have to ask you a question?
No, I have a question for you.
Go.
All right, so let's just go ahead and launch this with, who was the first romantic partner that you ever said I love you to?
We're redacting names just in case, perchance, right?
Yes.
Okay. My high school boyfriend.
High school boyfriend?
My swimmer high school boyfriend.
So this is not one of the high school boyfriends who ended up being gay?
No.
Okay, I didn't mean that as a joke. I know that you've got a lot of history with, maybe macking on some dudes that turned out to Mac the other way.
I definitely said I love you to Eric Ream, who was my high school
So much
gay
for names.
boyfriend. But that was because we truly loved each other as soulmates and not romantically, and we knew that. And I knew deep down that we would never be together, but we did plan, just in case, that we would buy a house together, get married, all that stuff.
All the things you did with me.
Yes, correct. Sorry, Eric. But yeah, my high school boyfriend was the first guy that I ever loved, And what were we watching the other day when it's like, you never forget your first love? I still have a little soft spot for that guy up in my heart, and I haven't seen him in a very long time, but yeah, he was the first guy that I really felt all the real feelings for. Before him, it was very much like, oh, you're cute, oh, I want to kiss you, or no, mostly that was it. Lots and lots of dudes that I was like, you're cute, I have a crush on you, I want to kiss you. But that was just a pre-foreshadowing to my Black Widow exit. But no, this swimmer guy, he was the first one that I ever truly loved. And he was a grade younger than me, which caused controversy.
In high school, that's like straight up cradle robbing.
Yeah, but do you want to know why it was worse? Guess who's also a year younger than me? My brother. And guess who's friends with my brother? That swimmer boy. So it was like this complicated thing.
Okay, so now I was going to say that you haven't talked about this person very much, but I guess I have heard you talk about the boyfriend that you had who was first friends with your brother and that you met that way, and that's what the problem was.
That's not how I remember it. David claims to think.
Then give us, all of our listeners, a little bit of a brief breakdown. So you found this person. What led to you eventually saying I love you? How did you remember meeting them? And how come you're not married with children with them?
Ah, okay. I guess I met this dude in my Spanish class my sophomore year, and my sophomore year we were we were splitting high schools. So at the end of the year, I remember saying like, oh, who's going to North? Who's going to whatever? And this guy was like, I'm going to North. And I was like, no, you're not. I've never seen you before. I don't know who you are. You don't live by me. You're not going to North. And he's like, no, I really am going to North. And then when he came to North, I was like, oh, you go to North and you live very close to me. And so we actually started dating. Maybe this is why I have such a soft spot for him, because my junior year, the beginning of the year, homecoming, I just said our high school split, right? And our homecomings were on different days. So everyone was trying to get a date to East homecoming to go there and North homecoming to come here. And a East football player definitely used me to go to North's homecoming, and I didn't know that. And then ran off with this girl, Amber. I won't say her last name, but Amber. And so I was left at my first junior homecoming by myself with my football date with his tongue down some other girl's throat. And I was like, and I saw Swimmer Boy, and I was like, wait, you do go here. And then he danced with me for the rest of the night. And then ever since then, we were kind of just like, oh, he's very sweet. Very, very kind. He was a very kind man. The reason that I am not married with children with him is because he didn't turn out to be a very kind man. He grew up into kind of a very stuck up person from what I remember, and straight up told me to my face that I was not good enough, that I was not smart enough, and that he was better than me. So
he actually used those words
because we went to different colleges, and he was just like, I'm always gonna be smarter than you and better than you. Where you go and what you do is not good. And I remember that thing where I was gonna be a teacher? It's not okay to be a teacher apparently when he's gonna be an architect. So yeah.
I'm gonna give it to the teacher job on that one in terms of,
well, he's probably making a lot more money than me.
Yeah, touche. Money ain't where it always is, though. I was thinking in terms of societal impact, but destroy a building or two and destroy a life or two makes a huge difference, in my humble opinion.
But yeah, that's the story of Swimmer Boy.
Swimmer Boy. All right. I love our nicknames that we have for these.
Okay, so tell me, Nicholas, about the first girl that you ever loved.
Do you want to know the first school that I ever loved, or
the first what?
First
you loved a ghoul?
Ghoul. First girl that I ever loved, or the first one I ever said I love you to?
I don't care.
Wow. All right, listeners, we're getting a lot of hate coming from
I guess the
female half of this podcast today.
The first person that it was a mutual, I said, you said I love you too.
Okay. then it's probably my high school girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
So you I think know who this is.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
I bet her she's very nice.
Speaking of cradle robbing, she was 2 years younger than me. So we like, I had known her through a friend. She was a younger sibling, the sister of a friend of mine, a longtime friend, but we'd never really hung out. We were 2 years apart. We both ended up in the same high school, and then it was the county fair, as I remember it.
Ooh.
She was.
Wait, doesn't Bowling Green have like the world's biggest tractor pull or something like that?
We do. At those same fairgrounds, we have the International Tractor Pull Championships.
Wow.
Listeners who are saying, what the hell is a tractor pull? It is kind of exactly what it sounds like. They take tractors and they soup them up like you would drag race engines.
Not my kind of drag race. Okay,
no,
keep going.
Like fast cars, except it's all about torque instead of being about speed. And so instead of like, you're going to go really fast down a quarter mile, it is that you don't want to go fast. It's just how far you can pull a heavier weight. And I've never actually attended, but I understand they have mechanical weights that they now like press. And so it's like a tractor trailer and it's slowly getting heavier, and it's, can you get the whole thing? And then I lived close enough to this fairgrounds that I can remember back in the days, you'd hear this, and then you would get a boom, boom, when someone pulled the entire weight that they could possibly have.
I thought that tractor pulls was like they're pulling cows. How many cows can you pull? So instead of wow, you hear moo.
So wait, hold on. Our entire relationship, while I've been talking about the tractor pull and making jokes about this,
I thought they
you
put
literally
cows
thought
on a pallet.
okie dokie then.
That's funny.
So no, not cows, but no, it is the tractor pull. So we met not at the tractor pull, but the fair, the Wood County Fair that took place there. She was having some kind of issues with her then boyfriend, if I recall.
Oh.
And we spent like the afternoon together, and then I asked her out after that, and I can't remember what our first official date was, but yeah, then we dated for almost a year, I think. Sounds about right.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
All
I guess
right.
we kind of have like similar stories where it was like we're dating younger people of connections that we already had. Yet again, David.
Yeah, I didn't even realize the whole sibling connection, I guess, was true.
I found him first, David. Okay. All right, David. That's my brother.
You're just digging the bottom of the barrel right now for jokes. You're just going to keep saying your brother's name and think that that's funny.
Yo, David.
All right. So, okay. Can you remember your first kiss? So that was your first love. What was your first kiss? Oh dear. All right, here we go.
I do. Oh, he's younger than me too. He was in 7th grade and I was in 8th grade. He played clarinet and I played saxophone. He was, y'all, super off limits for me. I was very chubby, very not cool. Again, I was in band, and he also was in band, but was a skater. So he wore super tight, like those black ripped jeans and Vans, and had like curly, like this hair.
Wait, so he had the like emo hair?
Yeah, but it was like really curly. So I was like,
hold up, listeners. Now hold on a second. I know it's an audio form, but
oh my gosh.
So what you're telling me is, he had this hair specifically. Is that why you're still into me?
If you're just listening on the podcast, you don't want to see what's happening with Nick's hair. I guess so. Yeah, he had that kind of hair. And I remember we were playing we were playing ping pong in my mother's garage, and she just gave us pizza. And then we kissed, and I went, oh my God, I'm not supposed to do this. And he tasted like pizza.
Okay, so hold up. You're still into me with my emo hair. And
No, I didn't say
love
that.
pizza and pretty much taste like it all the time. So I'm learning that apparently I am just a recreation of the first boy you ever kissed.
That's right. There you go.
Okie
And
dokie then.
I genuinely don't remember, when you're in 7th and 8th grade, you're in middle school, things just come together, fall apart. Can't remember what happened. We still ended up being in band together, but don't know. He was cute.
You mean your lost love wasn't enough to break up the high school band?
The high school. No, I was first chair. Okay, like that was more important to me.
All right. I was last chair even my senior year, so I was terrible at music.
Who was your first kiss?
So my first kiss I also label as my first girlfriend, first one who got that label. And then even though I wasn't drinking, I can remember in high school I used to refer to it as a one-night stand with a 3-month hangover. And we didn't have sex at it, but at the time I was a freshman in high school, so just even making out with a girl.
You didn't kiss anyone until freshman year. You are okay.
Sorry.
Keep going.
Wow. All right, listeners, please at my wife if you took longer than into high school to first make out with somebody, because I feel like there's all kinds of shade being thrown at me right now.
I was in 8th grade, so
oh my god,
7th grader,
a whole year earlier. Anyhow, that 7th graders got more of a story than you do. But I used to refer to it as that because it was homecoming, freshman year, maybe it was coming home, doesn't matter. I brought a girl from another school, one that I'd had a crush on because she was the friend of a friend that was one of my best friends. So we went back to his place after the dance, basically stayed up all night making out because we were allowed to have a supervised sleepover of sorts. But I can remember, like, I went from this is the first girl I've ever kissed to like we are making out to like heavy petting and maybe a little bit of dry humping, probably. I can't remember.
My God,
like literally all in the same evening. So I caught up quickly to where others were at that stage.
Okay, cool. And then what happened to her?
Then by the end of the night, we agreed to make it official with a title. I'm pretty sure I'm the one who asked. And then she basically dodged my calls for 3 months before I finally got her on the phone and we broke up.
So you thought you had a girlfriend for 3 months, but she didn't talk to you?
More or less, yeah. We maybe spoke like once a week or so.
She went to another school?
Yeah, she went to a place in Sylvania. Northview, I think it was.
Those Sylvania sluts.
Sylvania, yes.
Sylvania sluts.
Sylvania sluts. I'm kind of loving this hairdo right now. People who have just stumbled upon this on YouTube are like, what the hell am I watching?
I know, with your shirt and everything too.
You're tearing me apart, Lisa.
What's your next question?
My next question, I guess, would be, is there any other like interesting stories or past loves that, led you on the road to here? Anyone that you can remember and any lessons you learned from past boyfriends or makeout dates?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I never really had serious boyfriends. Swimmer boy was like 6 months, but he was my first love. And then I spent a while trying to, if I broke up with him, because there was other swimmers on his team that I liked better, but they didn't like me. Then I tried to get him back. Then I would visit him in college. And then it was like a whole thing. That was just dumb. But in between, there were lots and lots of boys and lots of tears. Ask my mother if she's listening. Barb, I just fell hard and fast for lots and lots of boys. It didn't matter. They were band boys. Band boys, especially the percussion section.
BAND, not BANNED.
Correct.
Okay.
I was in band.
Just wanted to clarify.
Then when my brother and I were obviously at the same school, he was on the boys tennis team. So, there was a lot of boys tennis players. I liked athletes. I liked drama kids. I liked them all. But really no one stuck. In fact, I went to my senior year prom with just a very good friend of mine who was a drummer, and it was in theater. So, but yeah, in high school, it was kind of just like, there was swimmer boy that I never really had that. Went to college, met the baseball team.
Oh dear.
People used to call me a cleat chaser. I was very into boys in tight pants. Again, from my first kiss. Man, it's all coming back to me now. And then I had one serious boyfriend in college who was not in college. He was very much older than being in college. And that just didn't work out either. And we were together for 6 months. It ended pretty poopily.
Poopily?
Uh-huh. Actually,
Describe poopily.
well, his dad was dying and it was just like a whole thing. And so I was like, I don't like him anymore. Do I want to break up with him now before his dad dies, or do I have to wait till after his dad dies? And that's a horrible thing to say. But I also was going to U of I the next day. And what's funny is I ended up in the swimmer boys fraternity the night I broke up with that guy. So anyways, I didn't have a lot of luck. I always thought for a long time.
So wait, you actually joined the fraternity the night that you broke up with someone?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to
I
make
swore myself into the
Gotcha.
fraternity.
Ended up in that one. Gotcha.
And what was I saying? I didn't have a lot of luck with like serious relationships, and I was very hard on myself because I sometimes still think this. Luckily, I have you, Nick. That I'm just a lot, and I really am a lot. And you know what? I didn't really want to change that. I think I'm fun. I like who I am.
Most of the time.
I would cry a lot because I didn't think anyone like boys didn't like me, but I just liked having a very good time. I went to Mexico. I went on a bunch of different trips, found bartenders in every state, in every country. And then fell into love on accident with Nick. And it's funny because he is not any of the things I've described.
What are we talking about? I have the emo curly hair. I taste like pizza. I am clearly all of the things that you have loved your entire life. You just didn't know it.
Yeah, must be. Honestly, Nick is not my type. I always thought I would fall in love with a Latin man or a athlete. No offense. But it was a great surprise because you're the type of person that I didn't know I needed.
Well, thank you.
You're nice.
I think it's interesting. I wonder if we all have kind of stories like that. That's like, obviously a lot of TV shows and movies are based on true stories. And I feel like your story about like, oh, I had this guy that I then broke up with and immediately made out with someone that night, or things like that. These sort of awkward tales of relationship things. And it makes me think of, there was one where before my high school girlfriend, there was a girl that I saw one summer, and she was played tennis a lot. And I can remember, so we'll call her tennis girlfriend. So tennis girlfriend was only one summer that we were together. But there was like a period where we couldn't see each other for like a week or two or something. She was probably at tennis camp. But I remember leaving her a voicemail, and I totally did one of those things where, like, as a goodbye, I slipped and said, I love you. Like, to this person I'd been dating for probably a month at most at that time.
Oops.
And while I cared for her a great deal, and at the time, you know, was very serious about it, but I was like, and then of course you have that awkward, like, you gotta like take that back kind of thing.
In New Girl, or
Yeah,
Nick says I love you, and she goes,
yeah,
guns.
basically. Yeah, so I just I have some interesting stories like that. Or I can like looking back now, there was this girl that was a senior when I think I was a freshman, and I used to have the biggest crush on her, and I didn't realize until well beyond when it was too late, because in my mind it was like, well, she's just being nice enough to even talk to me, like there's no way that she's into me. But then even after she graduated, she's like, I remember she like invited me over and we walked around campus because she went to the same university nearby. And it wasn't until like years later that she then was like, yeah, dude, I was into you. I was trying to, you know, give you opportunities to make moves, and went way over my head. So that's just like totally another one of those movie kinds of things. But yeah, so we have these loves that we think are lost that eventually are the, you know, stepping stones to our eventual relationships, and the ones that we end up finding to stay the rest of our lives with. If you're lucky, you've learned some stuff from those past relationships, you know. Tennis girlfriend, I learned not to say I love you too soon. Danielle and I have stories about that. You know, high school girlfriend, I learned not to necessarily tell the person what they are thinking or feeling, even if I am correct in that fact.
You were trying to tell her what she's feeling,
and I was usually right about how she was feeling.
Okay, psychologist coming out.
There's lots of times where I predict the way you're thinking and feeling even before you can articulate it.
That's right, but you're good at not telling me how I'm thinking.
And you can thank high school girlfriend for that. I learned it was a very bad choice to choose to do that.
I'll thank her next time I see her.
All right. College girlfriend. I learned the lesson because the college girlfriend, we split up because we both had sort of different, we started with very similar interests in our lives. And as we grew apart and grew older and she graduated a year before me, I realized like you have to be willing to commit to a relationship. You have to give things up for that relationship. That person moved away to a different state and that they were kind of not willing to stick around for another year, even though I said I'd be more than willing to move to wherever they wanted to. So sort of realizing your own worth, but also that like just because you were really, really similar in your interests when you first meet each other, that's not enough to base a relationship on. And
Can we call her horse girl?
that's mean.
But she liked horses.
Yes, but that does not matter.
Keep going. Nick
I have
still
them
got
as-
some feelings for the horse girl.
I have them in stages.
Okay. All right.
I do say she'll always have a special place in my heart. Like the thing you were talking about, first true love. It may not have been the first person I said I love you to, but like she was the first one that was probably a true love. But yeah, you learn things like that, and I learned that for that situation that you have to have something deeper than just common interests. At least that's my humble opinion with relationships. So, any other lessons you've learned?
I just got really jealous of this girl for a second. I guess the other thing I was thinking about is in these other relationships that I had, because they were so, I guess, short, but also more fleeting, is like fights would be the end of things. And for our marriage, we don't fight, and I think, well, that's it. Not always.
I can definitely only count on one hand the number of times that even just the smallest inkling of wonder has entered my head.
And maybe that was like earlier on too. Now it's like we're deep into it. We're going on year 7. It's like if we fight, I'm like, I'll talk to you later.
Even our worst knockdown, drag out, the rare occurrence where we're losing our cool and shouting at each other, I'm usually the one shouting because I have anger problems.
And I cry.
Yes. But even then, yeah, I'm with you. Like you realize that a fight is not the end of a relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just realized that, like you said, it's not about the things that you have in common. A lot of the things that I dated, the people I dated early on were tennis players, athletes, in band. Like we had those immediate things in common, but you and I have deeper understandings in common, I think.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't say religion, definitely that has helped for us, but like common values, priorities, things like we value education, we value human rights, we value these
family.
Deeper seated things, we value family. Yeah, I think those things are deeper. I mean, I can remember, and we've made attempts for each other. Like I have gone to tennis matches, I have played tennis, but those things have not continued very strongly because
I don't like video games.
And I was going to say, and you've made it, but you've made attempps.
I try so hard.
The closest thing to it for me has been, getting her to do this podcast because then we, talk about movies. All right. Well, is there anything else you wanted to say on the topic of past loves?
I think timing is everything and everything happens for a reason. And, people listening out there, if you've had a bunch of past loves, you haven't found your love right now, that's okay. Don't force it. Honestly, I found Nick at a time in my life where a guy for real done me wrong. I was like, man, oh man, I am so over men. Like truly, I don't give a beep. And then I swear to you, like 2 or 3 weeks later, Nick stumbled into my life and I said, no, not him. And then it ended up being him. So, that is so cliche and it's so lame. And I never thought that would happen. But like, seriously, love happens if you want it to happen when you least expect it.
Yeah, I think that's a good lesson. And for our listeners who are, because I know we have some that are early in their relationships, some that are solid in their relationships like us, and some that are, maybe still just starting out with things. Know that those loves that you feel, like all of the ones I've talked about, except for maybe one today, I felt like my heart was being torn out. Like it was the end. It was, there is no point there. Like I've lost it. I will never find it again. And the reason I bring that up is because if you're someone who's at any point still there, you haven't found your person in the world yet, but you're feeling lost or you're feeling like your heart's been torn out, those people and those relationships will serve to give you some meaning and some lesson that you will take into the relationship. So when the timing is right, you do find your person, it will work out better.
Yep.
All right. Well, before we move into our next segment, I did want to specifically articulate a thank you to Albert Berezny on Facebook. Albert Berezny requested this topic of past loves. He is the first person that we had ever request them, and he's the first one we've been able to honor.
Oh, well, I hope that it was good, Al.
All right, so I bring it up because if you are interested, listener, and you want to hear our thoughts on some given topic, or if you just want to share your thoughts on it, please do find us on different social medias. In Love with Movies without the I. That's N, starting with the letter N. Love with Movies. On Twitter, I'm the one who sort of keeps that going. You can also email us directly at withmoviesinlove@gmail.com, or you can go to our website, inlovewithmovies.com, and you can leave us messages there as well. So if you want to have a future topic and get yourself a shout out for picking a good topic, be like Albert Berezny and go ahead and find us and share that with us so that we can move on to it.
Dope.
All right. And then what's the next segment that we have, Danielle?
I'm assuming since this piece of paper is in front of me, it is Closer Through Science, hashtag Closer Through Science. It's a not scientifically proven article, but it's close, where people ask a series of questions and then they get scientifically closer to each other. Okay, so we ask this every time, and we're at 27.
I think we need to be at 22.
Okay.
So we'll go through 22 because this one's like hard to do with guests anyway, so it'll work out really well. But so yes, as Danielle said, I just want to give the plug to Aaron et al. 1997. That is the famous article. Go look this up and you'll see this list of questions. Got to give you citations, kids. All right, Danny, what is the 22nd question on our path to getting closer through science?
Okay, it says alternate sharing something you consider a positive characteristic of your partner. Share a total of 5 items. Wow, podcast listeners are really gonna love this. They're gonna be like, let me eat that up.
Let's just go to 2. Let's go to 2.
Okay, all right.
Your heart.
That's my characteristic.
Yeah, your obviously metaphorical heart. You're caring for others.
Well, that was my first one about you. That you're very, very kind and caring. And I'll add on to that, you're polite. Your politeness.
All right. Apparently I'm polite enough to be well liked.
Give me another one. Tell me another thing about me.
I like your drive. You have
that's a good one.
Energy that I do not have. You never need naps. You do all kinds of physical activity. And then you basically, like, part of the reason you hate watching movies sometimes is because you just you don't like to sit still. I have to like force you to sit still. And I live my life sitting still as much as possible. So I applaud you for that.
I like that you are a kid at heart.
Oh.
Sometimes I'll look over and Nick will just be like,
I'm a big old dork.
Excited about things, and it gives me a sense of lightheartedness. Even yesterday, 2 days ago, I don't know, we were at the grocery store and he's just like on the cart flying through the aisles by himself. I thought that was adorable. Most of the time. Sometimes I find it annoying. Yeah,
you guys know this. Where like when you were a kid and parents always yelled at you for doing this, where you would get the cart going and then you would stand up on the back of it so that you were just riding it. That's what I was doing.
Cool. That was 2.
No parents to yell at me this time. Yeah, that's 2. We'll do that. And listeners, let us know some positive feelings that you have about us, or some positive feelings about your significant other, or just, share some love, get closer through science using the hashtag.
Or some positive characteristics about yourself, because you can date your own damn self.
Hell to the yes.
But if you share some about us, please someone tell me I'm funny.
All right. So with that, listeners, we will give a quick little plug that's going to happen here. And then on the other side of that, we will be talking about our movie for today. And once again, Danny, what is our movie?
Let me sing the theme song to that once again. Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow. She is a
In love with movies. Da da da.
And we're back. Welcome back, movie lovers, to In Love with Movies.
Ow, you just pulled my thing out my ear.
That's what she said.
So what movie are we going to talk about, Nick?
We're talking about Black Widow 2021, previously 2020, but we all know how that went down. And now we're at 2021's Black Widow. So this was a prequel, which is part of the reason we thought it would be interesting to discuss and see. We were going to learn a little bit more about this character, Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson. And therefore, we thought it would pair really well with our discussion for this episode's podcast.
And also, we just really wanted to see a newer movie. And by we, I mean Nick Baldwin.
And also, we didn't want to have to watch two movies in the same week, one for the podcast and one just for the sake of life because it was a new movie. So we decided to have this one serve for both.
Correct.
So a little bit of a rundown. Obviously, Scarlett Johansson, we've got Florence Pugh, David Harbour, and Rachel Weisz all lead this this show. I will say the vast majority of the movie is one of the four of them on screen the entire time.
Can I tell you something funny?
Okay.
I was talking about this movie at the bar the other day, and I was like, yeah, and Florence Henderson is great.
Florence Henderson.
And people were looking at me like, what are you talking about? I was like, oh, oops, she's I was like, oh, she's a golden girl. And I was with a lot of gay men, and they were very mad at me. They're like, what are you saying? So everyone, Florence Henderson is the mom from the Brady Bunch, right?
I haven't the slightest. I have no idea what you're talking about right now.
Anyways, it's because we were watching Dragging the Classics Brady Bunch the other day. Anyways, I got shot down real bad. But Florence Pugh is great in this movie.
She does a phenomenal job. And it's a new enough movie that we won't do too many things. I will say, listeners, spoilers. So if you have not watched the movie yet, I recommend pausing and coming back to this part of the podcast afterwards. If you are listening to this, though, and I would really appreciate, I just thought about this. I want to give a quick plug while we're doing it.
Nick loves plugs.
You got to do the plugs. You got to do that's how you get more people.
All right.
We just recently started doing YouTube. This will be one of the first videos that we have that's uploaded at the same time on YouTube as it is listening platforms. And I have a goal. I want to get 100 YouTube subscribers. It's not that big of a goal, but it is 100 YouTube subscribers because that apparently is the line at which you can then define your own URL. We have some random set of characteristics. If you go to youtube.com/random set of characteristics to find us, I want to change that to be in love with movies. So what we need is subscribers to be able to do that. So if you are someone who listens to this, even if you are someone who doesn't ever watch YouTube, do me a favor, go to your YouTube account, log in right now, find In Love with Movies, and then click that little subscribe button. Because even if you don't ever watch it there, it's going to help us out in the algorithms and things like that. And it will get me to my goal of being able to allow for us to have our own URL.
I don't even have a YouTube account.
All right, then. So there might be an extra step where you have to create a YouTube account.
Yeah.
You have a Gmail, therefore you have a YouTube account, whether you realize it or not. But
Right.
that is neither here nor there. So because we've given all of the sort of bona fides and the early bits and pieces, the opening credits of this movie, and I've given a plug, our next segment is going to be everyone's favorite segment. This is what we get the most love for. It is what everyone appreciates and looks forward to every time as Dani looks at her watch, waiting for me to finish. It is time for Dani's Dingle.
Time for Dani's Dingle.
America. Kids. Wonder Woman scene. Strong man. Horrific images. There's Black Widow. I know her. Sister. Antidote. Train lady assassins. A burnt face. Pheromones. Family quotes coming together. Pig. Helicopter. Avalanche. Jail. Confusion. The end.
Congratulations. That might be the most convoluted, confusing, random jumble of words about a movie that you've done yet.
Well, maybe, Nick. That's how I felt about the movie.
All right. Well, then why don't you tell us about it?
Okay. Guys and gals and everything in between, I really wanted to love this movie. When I saw Wonder Woman, we're not pretending 1984 is a real movie. That's not the one I'm talking about. When I saw Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot, I cried in the theaters. I, as a woman, have never seen myself represented like that in real life. And I could only imagine what it's like if you're not a white, straight human. So I applaud you all for your persistence. But anyways, when I saw Wonder
But that's
Woman,
not the movie we're reviewing.
yeah. So anyways, there's just scenes where I got goosebumps and I was crying, and it's because I saw woman power and I felt it, and I literally tear up just thinking about it. I wanted that so bad for Black Widow because I like Scarlett Johansson. I like her as a character. I think she's pretty badass. I didn't know a ton about her, but I like ladies, and I went into this and I felt none of that. I didn't, and it was mostly a female-driven cast.
Yeah.
Sitting on my thing.
I mentioned that there was, 4 people that are basically on screen the whole time. 3 of the 4 of them are women.
Yeah, and then all the armies, all the fighters, everyone, it's a woman, and I really, really wanted it to be, yes, I feel this, I love this, I got this. But knowing that because of my husband, I have seen all the Marvel movies, and knowing the ending of actual Black Widow, like her actual ending and how she dies, this movie I didn't care about because it left me knowing that she's not going to die. No matter what happens to her, and a lot of crazy stuff happens to her in this movie, she's not going to die. And so I just didn't care as much.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I agree with that. I mean, we talked about this, the spectacle, for those of you who have obviously, hopefully at this point, if you're listening to this still, you've seen this movie. So the spectacle of all these amazing, cool, crazy stunts that take place. I said as we left, I was like, they should have had Florence Pugh be doing a lot of those stunts. The scenes that you've seen in the trailer where she's like falling out of a plane, it's like, there's no stakes to this. I know she doesn't die here. I know she's not going to get maimed here. I know nothing happens here. And they should have therefore had that be Florence Pugh's character, because even though you sort of don't suspect they're going to let her die, because of course there's an end credit scene, and then of course she's going to be the next Black Widow, and that's how we're going to continue this on, which Florence Pugh crushes it. So I am okay with that. Mm-hmm. But I would have been on the edge of my seat more if and it would have not taken much writing. And I'm sure the real reason they didn't do it is because it's Scarlett Johansson's last movie. It's her big hurrah. It's her victory lap. That's why you're going to have her do the big action scenes, because that's the big deal is she's earned it. But it's like, okay, she earned it friggin' 8 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, this movie waited too long to come out. And also Scarlett Johansson, again, great actress. Fantastic actress.
One of my favorites.
Truly phoned it in.
Felt like it to me.
I don't know. People listening to this are probably coming at us right now. I really wanted to like this movie. And let me step back. I liked the movie. I enjoyed it. It's fine. It's another Marvel movie where there's big explosions, except now in the sky.
It's better than Thor: The Dark World.
I've never seen that one, actually. So, and there was humor, but also the humor didn't land for me because you have, I really like David Harbour, right? Is that his name?
I think so, yeah.
Who plays Hopper in Stranger Things, who is basically the Russian Captain America. They didn't give him enough of a backstory, in my opinion, to want you to fight for him or to love him. And then he could have been an emotional character because he's a great actor, and they just gave him jokes and made him be I'm dumb and big and strong. And then Rachel Weisz, who I didn't realize was who she was, I was like, was that Demi Moore or was that Katie Holmes? God. Spoiler alert, it's Rachel Weisz from The Mummy. Her character was just not someone that I got on board with.
Yeah, and that's, I think, a big thing there is those were 2 caricatures, not real characters. And this is the thing that was most disappointing for me about this movie. Part of the reason we paired it with this again is I thought we were going to have this great story, the same way we have this tale and these stories of the people that we had in our lives before Danielle and I met each other. They tell the story of who we became and why sort of what we do matters, and gives you a little bit of context and gives you some depth to choices that we make. The people that we are introduced to here, there is, and I'm guessing it's because they're not planning to have much of Rachel Weisz or even probably Dave Harbour in the future ones. They set it up so that Florence Pugh, or maybe it's just that, I mean, she's almost in a different movie. She is actually seriously acting crushing some of the scenes like around the dinner table. And then you've got David Harbour and Rachel Weisz are both just playing like generic silly scientist and generic strong oath. And it's just so sad. But like, because you see like scenes with him and Eleven from Stranger Things, and you know that he can do emotional weight.
Yeah.
The fact that there's this scene where he ends up just letting them go, it is such a contrived decision then that they choose to break him out of jail. They're literally like 25 years later. Yeah, this guy who's been in prison for 20 of those 25 years, surely he knows where this Russian USSR secret agent general is, even though he's been in prison for 20 years. So we have to go break him out. And then they get there and he's like, oh, he and I aren't really friends because he's the one who put me in prison. And you have no explanation of why, what happened there, got him in prison. You don't think it has anything to do with them because all you saw was him being like, oh, this 6-year-old and this 10-year-old, I'm going to go ahead and give you back to the evil people for this red room, even though I've served as your father for the past 3 years. Like, all they could have even, I just wish they had him like try to fight them being given away back to the red room.
Yeah. So
and then you would have had a reason for him to be in prison. You would have had a reason for them to care to break him out 20 years later.
I was gonna say, taking a step back, the first 20 minutes of this movie, I was in. Like, I was
Chef's
like,
kiss.
oh my gosh, this is something I've never seen before, because they do the backstory of this family and you're like not entirely sure what's happening. And he gives away these girls and you're like, how could he give away his daughters? And then obviously you find out it's not his real daughters. And then I think they almost cheapen it by saying it was only 3 years. And then, like you said, there's a scene where David Harbour literally gives away these 2 girls that are like, Dad, Dad, Dad.
Yeah, they're like
And
crying to him
shows-
and he's like, it's okay, sweetie.
Shows nothing, like tricks them.
Yeah.
And then later on in the movie, you want to believe that he cared about them the whole time, when you're like, I saw you.
Yeah.
So I think they did a great job of setting it up. Rachel Weisz is kind of dying, so you don't know if she survives. And she was a very loving and caring mother who taught her daughters to be strong. She says strength or pain only makes you stronger, which
Mhm.
obviously Black Widow channels a lot.
Yep.
And then they kind of just lose all that when they come back together and saying like, oh, remember for those 3 years when you were really young and we were a family? I don't know.
Yeah, there's like, that's the other thing is they're trying to make you feel like you should care about these characters
Mhm.
and their emotions to each other, but they mean nothing. And that's where I'm saying it was disappointing. It's like, I was going into this being like, cool. Obviously, we know there's no stakes in terms of her life. So there's no real meaning to this mission of like, who somebody might die or something along those lines. Instead, they're going to have to give us some sort of meaningful relationships about how these people turned her into who she became. And I just don't see that. Like, you see the situation, obviously, about being like how she became the way that she became. But as you said, that's only 3 years and it just so cheap. And something that occurred to me just while you were talking, this movie, so like Marvel, knocks a lot of them out of the park, does a really good job. Some are better than others. Some of them are just okay. Similar to Pixar. This movie, to me, is the up. If Pixar's up is the up of the Pixar universe, this movie is the up of the Marvel universe,
I'll
because
fight
the
you up.
first several minutes are gorgeous. Some of the best work, in my opinion, that they have done, including the musical cues that happened at the beginning of this. Shout out to Settle the Score. I got my butt kicked recently and should have done it from that score. Anyway, but beautiful stuff. And then the rest of the movie is like, nah. And that's kind of what Up is. Up, that first 10 minutes will kill you every time. I don't care who you are. You do not have a soul if you can watch the first 10 minutes of Up
Nick,
and
I'm
not
gonna
cry.
fight you right
But
now.
then when we get to Kevin and mine and Squirrel, like, these
Okay,
are just
mine-
dumb jokes.
It's from Finding Nemo. You're quoting the wrong movie. Nick, okay, first of all, don't make that. You're right. At the beginning of Up is one of the greatest beginnings of ever
Thank you. And then the rest of it
is great.
is subpar compared to other Pixar movies. At the very
Anyways,
least.
let's get back to Black Widow. Another
You're
thing I want to talk about, I love Up, is that once the family gets back together, they set Rachel Weisz's character up as a bad person. And then you find out that she, like, in a matter of 2.5 minutes, like, changes her mind, even though she called the Red Room to sick it on her family, whatever. And then they switch faces. And that was so unbelievable. And then when that was happening, I still kept thinking, I don't understand who's who because I can't tell if they're being fake mean or real mean or who is evil and who's not evil. It just like because they hadn't set up the characters well enough. Actually, I lied. They set up the characters so good and then they get rid of all of it later on in the movie.
Yeah, basically.
It's like stick with what you created, Marvel. You started something really well and then the rest of the movie was fan service, unfortunately.
And not even the good kind of fan service. Because there can be, in my opinion, good fan service. But yeah, there was just like no story, in my opinion, to really kind of carry this.
Mm-hmm.
It is one that I might watch again, but I'm more likely to, I will watch it until they break him out of prison. Like the very beginning, awesome. Her meeting Florence Pugh, pretty decent.
Yeah, I like that.
The scenes where they break him out of prison, I thought was the coolest action scene. I actually thought that was better than the final scene. And then the movie after that is just not good, in my opinion. You start seeing the holes start to generate as they're like actually together again.
Yeah, and I keep thinking more and more about the movie, and I can't. The Scarlett Johansson's face doesn't come to my mind.
Yeah,
it's Florence Pugh because she's very funny, she's very witty, and she's very believable. And like I said, Scarlett Johansson kind of phones it in because I wonder if as an actress she was like, oh, this is
what you're going to give me to be my outing as the amazing Black Widow.
And then they have this bad guy who's the ultimate bad guy of all time who she somehow didn't kill earlier on. And so they have to bring him back. And then she can't hurt him because he has pheromones
That's just science.
Him.
That's just science.
I will say, though, I was doing this the other day at the bar, too. We were joking around, me and my friend Wes. We couldn't hear each other. So Black Widow has to smash her own nose to not be able to smell the pheromones to hurt this guy. And so me and Wes just kept slamming our heads, like pretending like we were breaking our nose.
That was contrived. So contrived.
I enjoyed that piece. I did. I thought it was very funny. But yeah, and then his ring, and then the army of girls who have no personality and then still have no personality but are on their side. And then the big bad is, what's the Task Rabbit?
Taskmaster.
I don't know. Yeah, that robot skull looking thing.
I actually thought that was, I'm sure there are some people who really, really are upset because that is not at all faithful to the comics. I thought they did a bad job of it, but the basic idea of Taskmaster being the big bad's daughter who you thought was dead and him having like used her as the worst overprogrammed person, that was kind of a cool idea. It was a kernel of a good idea that they let die on the vine.
I agree. I think it was a good reveal where I was like, oh, I didn't see it that it was going to be the daughter, but then she doesn't do anything.
Yeah, it's kind of and of course they sell the movie on like Taskmaster's in this, and then it's not that at all.
Another character I want to bring up that serves absolutely no purpose is that beautiful man that
Mason.
was like, what's his name?
Mason is the character's name.
He's like the kind of boyfriend servant of Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah. So there's also, this is a good segue. I was going to say the one other thing I wanted to make sure we talk about, because we're talking about past loves or past relationships. There's kind of this like weird tension always going on with ScarJo and that guy. And there's also all through the MCU always been this story of her and Hawkeye. So I want to talk about both of them because we get the story of Budapest that's always been alluded to and the big deal. And then we also have this other guy. So her and Mason, what do you think? Those two fucked, yeah? Like somewhere in the past, those two fucked.
For sure.
Yeah.
But not knowing all the MCU and all the things, I'm like, who is this guy?
I wanted to know more of that story and what, like how she knows him.
Have you seen him before?
No, totally new dude.
He served no purpose then.
Well, he served the purpose of making it possible. He was all of the necessary MacGuffin-ness. He brought in all of the supplies that she needed. He's the one who brings her the mail that is the pheromone stuff that her sister sent her.
I think about being this actor in real life. And I'm like, if I was him, I'd be like, Ma, I'm going to be in Marvel, with all the superheroes. And then this is his role? Hot damn. All he does is he sleeps twice and says, I brought you a plane and I brought you a better plane. Why did he serve no purpose? I'm sorry. You're good looking. Put him in a different movie.
He may still be. They could have him hook up with Florence Pugh. And I don't mean that like in a hookup the way that he clearly hooked up with Scarlett Johansson somewhere in their past. But there was totally tension there. But I wanted to know more of that story than anything else. And then I personally was very disappointed with what we got for the explanation of the infamous Budapest.
I don't know
Budapest,
anything about
Budapest.
this because let me tell you something. Sorry, segue about Star Wars / Marvel is it all is like government stuff, and so I don't follow I just politics get confused in my head, and so when you put fake politics in front of me, like the Jedi Council and the people who sit in the circle, and then also the Sokovia people accords, Sokovia Accords. I'm like, I don't understand the policies. So why are people mad? Okay, sorry, go ahead. I know this had to do with Civil War or something, right?
That's okay. Yeah, this is supposed to have taken place right after Captain America Civil War, which, another side note, this is supposed to take place between that and Infinity War. They do, again, talking about how awesome the beginning of this movie is. I really feel like, I don't know, to me it just feels like somebody did an amazing job with the first screenwriting, and then like halfway through finishing this script, they got bored or they got rushed, or I don't know what. Somebody came in and wrote the second half of this movie and just schlockily put things together. But the first part is good. She has an amazing escape after Civil War. Like you see her looking like she's gonna, dye her hair, and you think, oh, okay, here it's going. We're gonna see her turn into the blonde from Captain America Civil War. And what's his name? Thunderbolt Ross is coming to find her in some kind of train station. You think she's in that bathroom, and then you find out, no, she's actually in the bathroom of some boat, like on the other side of the country, and he has no idea where she is. And it's like, oh, that's so cool. She's a spy. That's awesome. He had no idea what was going on. But then we decide to end the movie with her literally waiting around for that guy to then pick her up. The guy that she escaped at the beginning of the movie, the guy that you know that she is not with, because she has to be not with him for Infinity War after Captain America Civil War. And yet she just waits around. And then we have no explanation. We have this cool explanation of how she escapes him in the beginning, and then literally zero explanation of how she escapes him at the end of the movie.
And then she comes back blonde at the end.
With absolutely no explanation.
And her hair is short.
And Mason apparently, like, they decided, well, we need to explain how she got a Quinjet. Sure, that Mason guy gave it to her.
Who also served no purpose. Yeah, I agree. I don't know how much COVID had to do with this and like changing the story or changing the filming, because it is a lot of like green screen / CGI stuff too.
I don't think that's the case.
No?
Because it was supposed to come, like, it had to have been very near to being done. It was supposed to come out in May of 2020. Like, so if March blows stuff up,
yeah,
that's in the can. Like,
what if they were like, you know what? We changed our mind.
Maybe.
New movie.
It wouldn't surprise me. Well, we've shat on this enough.
Sorry, Black Widow.
I am sorry if you listener enjoyed this movie. I am so glad that you did. It's well overdue. I'm glad ScarJo at least got one outing as a solo movie for Black Widow. I think she's a phenomenal actress. I think some of these characters could have been very cool. I want to see more of the Red Guardian and some of that stuff, and I definitely want to see more of Florence Pugh's Black Widow.
Yeah, you said this before, but I'm gonna steal what you said. If there was a TV show called like The Widows or Widows, I would love to see the women training and all of that.
Yes. Or her tracking down all of the other widows, because clearly the movie ends with like her going to free her sisterhood.
Because they're all brainwashed. Like that to me is deep.
That's
I
cool.
love that, because from when they were orphan babies, they were brainwashed into becoming killers. That is great. We see really none of that in this movie.
Yeah.
So if you have, I agree, Florence Pugh coming back and trying to search all these Black Widows down and fighting them, and yeah, I'm on board.
Agreed. But we should give our heart ratings and whether or not we renew our vows.
Okay, you go first. I always go first.
Well, renew our vows. I'm going to say yes, although like I'll renew my vows to the first half of this movie, not to the rest of it. I will definitely go back to watch at least the first half. I don't know that I may just turn it off when I get to the middle of this movie. And with that, I'll give it a 2.75. Because the first half, again, I think is 5 out of 5. Like the first half of this movie is stellar.
Yeah.
The second half is meh. And so that gives it its 0.25.
Yeah, that's fair. Would I renew my vows? No, thank you. I don't.
Never going to see this again.
Probably.
Probably.
I don't like watching Marvel movies over again unless you're Ant-Man or Thor 3 with the arms.
Only reason she loves our UHD TV kids.
Correct. Or if you give me a compelling woman movie, I'll watch Wonder Woman over and over and over and over and over again.
Brilliant.
But stars too. I don't.
Ooh, that might be a record. That might be your lowest star
No,
rating.
I hated The Matrix. I
I'll have
gave
to
it
go
like
back
a
and look.
1
I'll
out
have
of
to go
5.
back and look. That may be true, but that's wow, 2's low. Okay.
I'm sorry, because you know what? Actually, I don't want to change it, but I will say, walking out of the theater, I was like, huh, that was pretty good. And then the more I sat and thought about the movie, which I know is your favorite thing to do and
Yep.
talk about,
Yep.
the more I was like,
That's why we do this podcast. We're talking about
it wasn't good. It was not good. It was pretty, lots of big bangs, lots of special effects.
I don't even think the special effects were that good, especially that final scene. It just looked like CGI crap thrown on top of CGI crap thrown on top of CGI crap. Like it wasn't even. She doesn't like her biggest scenes for ScarJo to look like a kick-ass person were all in the prison break scene, in my opinion.
Yeah. So I stand with my 2.
All right, 2 out of 5. Okay, then.
Sorry, Marvel. Sponsored by Marvel Studios.
I am genuinely very glad that we've had other Marvel in the meantime. I am a much bigger. I would even rank this like of all of 2020 plus 2021, all of the Marvel that we've gotten, this is the least good.
Are you
to
talking
me.
about like WandaVision?
Yeah, including the TV shows, because I would say WandaVision's the best.
Yep.
For me, Loki comes next.
Eh.
Falcon and Bucky, that one did definitely get affected by COVID. There's a whole, look it up on the online. There was a whole plot line that was supposed to be about a virus ravaging the world, and they cut it for understandable reasons. But I think that probably hurt the quality of that show. There are other great things that they do in there, though. And then this, and this is, like I said, yeah, it's just not awesome.
Womp womp. What's the next Marvel that's coming up? Oh, Doctor Strange, right? Now we're opening the multiverse of all the things.
I'm trying to think of what. So I think the Legend of the Ten Rings, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is the next
That's
one
the
to come
bald
out.
lady.
No, that you're thinking of the Ancient One, played by Tilda Swinton.
Mhm.
Shang-Chi is a lesser known Marvel property, but the Legend of the Ten Rings and sort of the organization of the Ten Rings is where like the Mandarin comes from. And supposedly we're going to have a little bit more of that, but it's going to be like a kung fu movie, kind of like Iron Fist, except hopefully better. And it's going to be in, I want to say, August or September.
Give me more ladies.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully we'll have a Lady Hawkeye, and we'll have Stature, who is Ant-Man's daughter, and we'll have all those kinds of things too in the future.
Yeah.
The Marvels, we have Kamala Khan. Yeah, so all right. Well, that is it, movie lovers. Let us know what you thought of the movie. Tell us why we're wrong.
We're gonna get lots of hate
Give
texts
us
from this.
all the hate on the Twitters, and on Instagram and everything like that. Or tell us how we're right. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. We love movies here. We want you to feel love about them. So sometimes we just we don't love them as much as we'd like to, and that's okay. That happens sometimes. If you loved it, let us know. So where can they do that, Dani?
You just said Twitter.
Which is
Don't make me do this.
literally every single episode.
And Instagram with it, which is In Love with Movies. In Love _ with
There
movies.
you go.
TikTok.
TikTok, we're on there.
If you want to see Nick make some things.
We're doing some 3D printing and then occasionally doing some movie stuff. All right. So, and then don't forget to like and subscribe. Share with us any kind of topics that you'd like us to discuss in the future. We will, find ways to pair those with movies for us, or any guests that you'd like to suggest for us to have on in the future. Make sure to add us with all of those things on all of the social media platforms. Give us a like and subscribe. Listen to us on Spotify. Rate us on your top one. If you give us an actual review, 5 stars on Apple, we will also read that entire thing in our love notes segment if you actually write things. You do have to write a review, though, not just give us 5 stars. Thank you, everyone who's given us 5 stars. We've gotten a lot more of those, but no actual words on it. Okay, well, I'll let you go now because Dani is just making weird faces towards the
People
camera.
turned this off 3.5 minutes ago. I love you, Nick.
I love you, Dani. And we love you, listeners. Thank you very much for listening.
Bye-bye. Black Widow. Da-da-da.
Follow us on Twitter at the letter N, Love with Movies, on Facebook at facebook.com/withmoviesandlove, and on Instagram and TikTok at InLove_with Movies.
You can email us at withmoviesinlove, that's all one word, withmoviesinlove@gmail.com, to share your own love stories with us, suggest future love topics that you might want to hear us discuss, or just to say, hey, we like to hear from you.
Hey.
All original music written and performed by Danny Smith, with our theme song remixed by Paul Brandt.
And this whole podcast was produced and edited by my lovely husband, Nicholas Baldwin.
And special thanks to Nick Stretchberry for our website and podcast art.